No mai, haere mai ki Aotearoa Rugby Pod. Welcome to the Aotearoa Rugby Pod, brought to you by Ashley and Martin Medical Care Centres. My heart rate hasn't gone down since that epic clash between the All Blacks and Boks. We'll get into it all, whether it's shutting down Boks trick plays and lineouts, first phase tries, massive scrums, refereeing interpretations, and what will change for the second test. And one of the great stories of the test is commentator Jeff McTainch. He was a late call-up due to TJ losing his voice, and Jeff will spin us his yarn of how he ended up at Eden Park for the biggest test of the season with just minutes to go. The Aussies pulled through in tough circumstances. We'll break down how Argentina let a big lead go. The Black Ferns made a massive statement against Ireland. They've come a long way through this tournament and look slick before the quarterfinal against South Africa. We have a third Shield holder in 3 weeks. We'll look at that before the Mako have their turn against Canterbury. Plus, we have another Rugby Ready giveaway for a month of free training with All Blacks guru Dr. Nick Gill's training team. And don't forget your emails and comments, as well as all the in-depth analysis you've come to expect from James Parsons and Bryn Hall. Jipper, that was a big test match on Saturday night. How were you feeling?
It was just so good. I mean, the start, when Amoni went over, where I was watching it, the place absolutely erupted, but across all the games, but particularly like first phase tries, like set piece, the prep and the homework was so meticulous, and a big reason and a big difference between the two sides.
That's all. We can take that to our Ashley and Martin turning point then, because that is precisely it. Brenna, the prep. Obviously, the Springboks had showed us a few of their things against Italy and Georgia and then against Australia. How key was that to the way the All Blacks were able to perform?
I think it was massive, and there's been a lot of probably pressure with this coaching staff and around innovation and being able to, I guess, will they coach well or not. But if you look on the weekend, you got a pretty good introduction of what they did really well. Like if you look at the startup with Scott Barrett in terms of the decision making around defensive line-out work, him and Tupou Vai doing very well. I think even Wallace Atiti, there's an example where they went over the 15, good interpretation of the law. And then you look at the two tries with the Moni Narawa, the first one to be able to see that Willie le Roux's inside that 15-metre line, nails that kick. And obviously if Willie le Roux wanted to have his time again, he'd make that tackle. But then Will Jordan, understanding that the back lifter gets that prop to be able to lift, and then Malcolm Marks, with the way they defended that line out, he was covering the whole kind of line out 15-metre line, and then obviously inside ball to Will Jordan. So I just think the preparation-wise with those examples, plus the kicking game and how much pressure they put on Grant Williams, you talk around probably being out-coached, and I just genuinely think that coaching group and the preparation, not with just coaches, but players and everybody involved, was just a lot better in South Africa in so many areas.
No, I don't want you to say a bad thing about Malcolm Marks, but let's talk about that defence and what they did off that line out for Will Jordan to go through in that try. What is the expectation of, I suppose, both Marks and Mako van Staden?
Well, normally, because the way he defends is he's playing a role in the line-out, and normally you want to try and buy some time, but Van Staden just locked eyes on his man, and probably just where he had to come from. And being Will Jordan, like sometimes there's players that you go, okay, we need to tighten up here because they're so elusive. And I think Will Jordan, I just think they made a mistake with Will Jordan being there. They just needed to tighten up and not probably be so fixated on man on. Like, you've got to know he can get there. Yes, he still got in a position and missed the tackle, but he wasn't in a strong position. And I mean, Will Jordan just glided through. So Van Staden, if he had his time again, I think he needed to be a little bit tighter because of the threat of Will Jordan.
From the other point of view, I suppose, is the box kicking. The prep that was put into that and the way that they approached the defending of South Africa's box kicks.
Well, Jip touched on it kind of last week in terms of not being able to kick on their own terms, and you see how many times the counter rucks or Parker, Scott was able to get a couple of charge downs, but you look at the work of being able to make that caterpillar not so long, because Grant Williams, if you give him time with what we've seen in this early part of the international series, he kicks it on a dime. So they're able to put some really good pressure in and around there. I thought, especially in that first half, the scraps in and around the area which they lost with the Argentinians, they were able to fall onto the ball, being able to get the ball back, and then I guess having a little bit of counter attack and not giving the opportunities to the South Africans. So again, just that preparation. So they knew what was coming, and aerially we were a lot better. Probably in the second half it was a little bit more 50-50 in terms of the South Africans able to win in a few here and there. But I just think the work that we wanted to see post Argentina, especially around that aerial game defensively, but then also I think Finlay Christie deserves a big pat on the back with his kicks on the weekend. I think he had 14 box kicks, with the 34 that New Zealand did have, and his execution, especially in that first half when we scored the 14 points, and his game management with Beauden Barrett, 50-22, kicked some good contestables, the attacking kick very early on for Narawa. I think just their balance of what they were, which were pretty difficult conditions from what I did see. They knew that what their game had to be, and they were able to execute it probably a little bit better than what we are accustomed to seeing from the South Africans in those conditions.
I just think it's so important. Like, everything the All Blacks did, especially their forward pack, was purposeful. Like, there was no wasted energy, and everything in and around those breakdowns to not allow South Africa to just set up and kick on their terms. Even the ability to make it hard for the chasers as well, you know, like it just, everything was just on, man. It was the most on performance we've seen in a number of years, like from woe to go. And I think you look at that maul turnover, just the way Tupou Vaa'i reacts, you know, like they just, they were, the tricky thing is now, like the whole fixation of the Eden Park record, and, you know, so it does bring that little bit of edge and that sharpness in the preparation. Wellington not as, I suppose, a happy hunting ground, so they need to make sure that whatever they did last week, it just needs to be at that level, and then some.
And I think if we're being completely honest, I think the South Africa team is actually going to get a lot better. Like, considering that there was 24-17, you know, probably could have won the game in the last couple of minutes unless Artie does what Artie does in those kind of situations. But, you know, they had 13 entries and 9 in the second half, and they only scored a couple of tries. So they had so many more opportunities. We had 5 entries into the 22 and we scored 3 times. So, look, if they're scoring maybe 3 or 4 more tries of those opportunities that they do get, they'll be a lot better. And I just think also their decision-making around their attacking kicks, like, I think they obviously saw a lot of line speed from us, but, you know, Delande's kicks actually didn't find any grasp or, like, some really good attacking opportunities off that. So I just think the clunkiness, there's just a lot of clunkiness with them, not just more so their attack, but just in a lot of areas. I just think they're going to get a lot better at that 22 area. If we're going to give them 13 more entries, then, you know, unfortunately, I think they're going to be a lot better in that space. So a few things to work on with the All Blacks, but I just seriously think we're going to get a much better South African team in that second test match in Wellington.
If you look at the 22 efficiency of the All Blacks this year, like, it was an area they said they want to get better. They created a lot last year, but just couldn't get over that line. Man, it is just so phenomenal, the way they go about their work in the 22. Like, it's been a massive growth, and they just come away with points every time they seem to get in the 22. Everyone sort of was fixated after Argentina lost. Oh, there's no line breaks. There's this, but, like, when they do get in the 22, their error count is down, and they normally get across the line this season. I think that's a massive, massive part of their success on the weekend.
If you look back to last year, one of the places they struggled against the Boks, in fact, the last 4 losses was at the breakdown. The fact that they're scoring from first phase, do you think that that is something they've absolutely targeted? They've said, hey, this actually is easier than putting ourselves into a position where there's a fight for the ball.
I'd love to say that you can probably have that mindset, but I think it was more defensive errors that created the ability. But when they're in there, like those, like, Imoni sort of does a freakish catch to score that try. We've spoken about marks, but what it does do is that they're putting the defence where they want them. And that's, as an attacker, you're putting them in a position of weakness, and that's probably their efficiency. And I don't think it needs to always be a first phase. It's great because, I mean, that's the easiest route, but I think a big part of it is they've really got a good handle on what their strengths are and how they can sort of put opposition defences, I suppose, into minds. And if you create that hesitation, like Mark's not been able to get out early and get in, that's when the opportunity presents.
Now, when you looked online, there were plenty of people complaining about refereeing decisions, about, you know, it's the usual, the All Blacks get everything in their favour, all that kind of stuff that you see online. We got some good emails through regarding this. One came from actually a neutral in England, Tony Clifford. He says, how legal were the tactics of the All Blacks in successfully slowing down the ball at the breakdown? I believe they studied the referee's approach. When you look at the way, let's take, for instance, the midfield maul and the way that was set up with the line-out jumper coming down and the way they came in from the side. The legalities of that, Jip.
Yeah, as long as you don't change your bind, like, it's just the same as maul defence. Like, if you watch where the bodies are, it looks like they're from the side, but where they started isn't how they came. Do you know what I mean? Like, where Scott Barrett ends up, like, he's almost in the back. It looks like that. It doesn't look right, but he never changes his bind. As long as they don't change their bind, that's completely legal.
And that's why I think it comes back to that preparation. So, like, you know, they would have known that was coming. There's a lot of instances where, you know, defensively they were able to be in a position that's dominant for the All Blacks, but could be seen as maybe a 50-50, but that just comes back to the preparation. I think that's one of the biggest difference than what we saw against the South African team. They just felt like that, it's hard to say this because I think Russie's an outstanding coach, but for the one game, I just think preparation-wise, the coaching group and the players were probably just a little bit better in terms of being able to understand, not just refereeing, but the interpretation and the adjustments, which Scott Hansen actually does talk around, the adjusting time to time and puts position to position or probably play to play. The All Blacks were just really good around, and that staying on mindset, you could just kind of see it through the duration of that match.
Chip, how hard is it, though, when you look at that maul, and as Marty explained in the commentary that it's not a maul until both sides are involved in it. How patient do you have to be to hold off from attacking the front of the maul to allow your people to come in from the side? Because I think Fletcher Newell was right there and he held off, and that must be a scary thing when they could get going, you know?
Yeah, it is, but you've done the work during the week. Yep. You would have done it 100 times at training against the reserves. So I think, again, nothing should be hard on game day because you've done the prep, and that's where the ease of that. But it's no different every week. Like, every team looks at ref trends. Every team's coaches have meetings with the refs, and they'll say, they would have spoken about it with the ref, going, okay, they're going to do this midfield maul. This is how we're approaching it. You know, is that how you see the laws and things like that. So it's all, yeah. I just think on the night, that's when instinct comes in, and because they've done the reps, you just execute.
Playing their cards too early didn't help them, right? Like, we wondered at the time what the point was of the midfield line-out maul. Yeah, well, it worked for me against Italy because of the urgency for them to fold in the defensive system. The All Blacks they've got a very efficient D structure. So for me, I don't know. It just wasn't something that was going to manipulate their defence. I don't believe, to allow a try. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not. I can't look at it to go, okay, they saw this from the Argentinian game that created. I think they just did it because they've got it up their sleeve and it didn't work, and I don't think they'll be bringing it out again. How often do you want to keep those things up your sleeve?
I think on that though, like, creating variations off it, because you've come for a plan, the danger now is there may be something they can do off it. So the All Blacks have to be... I don't know. Like, so you don't want to be fixated, this is how we're going to stop it. You've got to be able to go, okay, what if they did do it off the top? Or what if they made a hole through the middle and someone goes straight up the... You know, so like, they're too smart. Yeah. The South Africans, they will probably pull it out again, but it won't be more.
I think if they were to do it again, probably depending on where the best on the field to do it is. Like, if you do that maybe like 3 or 4 metres from the try line, yes, you can try and maybe go and second like that, and then maybe be able to then throw it possibly close to the line where they then go over and do a latch or something like that. I just think in that area of the field, there's not much payout you get out of it. If you do set the maul, then you might get a penalty if you're all kind of not in the same understanding of what's happening. But geez, what you could see, like, they were ready for it.
Those conditions as well, like the weather plays a big part. Like, a dry night would be different as well in terms of how a maul can get going. When it's a little bit loose under footing, it's a little bit easier to stop mauls.
You mentioned Scott Barrett and we mentioned Tupou Vaa'i. Those two All Blacks locks as a combination, how vital were they to the way that game played?
Massive. Their numbers were ridiculous. Like, they were both the top 2 breakdown clearers, and I think that's always a stat where you can see, man, they're doing back-to-back efforts to be so far. I think Scott was around 37 and Tupou Vaa'i was 34. The next best was Artie at 30, but then there's a big gap with the rest. So those 3 players in particular, man, they put in some big shifts and made crucial plays in and around the breakdown. You said the last 4 times, you know, the All Blacks had lost. The breakdown was an area that they probably got exposed. Like, those 3 in particular, it was almost like it was their... They got together and said, right, we're the senior dogs and we're going to lead the way. And man, they did it. And then some.
There were so many good things that they had to do for that game. Like, you touch around the line-out pressure that they're able to put on, not just Tupou, but Scott as well, getting line-out steals. You talk around the harassment at the breakdown, especially those two, being able to slow down ball or make it really difficult for the kicks, or just in general, just maybe that little bit of extra effort then makes it be able to then, like, gets bad ball presentation, and that quick ball isn't there. So all those little things that Jip and I, we kind of touch on around the little things that go unnoticed, just had big impacts in terms of what they were able to do for not just the 30 or 40 minutes, but for the duration of the game that those three guys were on. And even Simon Park as well, all the stuff that he did as well.
But I think it makes it, their performance, the three senior performers, allows Parker and Wallace, who are a little bit less experienced, just to do their own, focus on themselves. They don't have to overwork. They're put in positions of their individual strengths. And yeah, they executed that. Like Parker was 100% in the tackle area. Wallace had some massive carries, obviously gave the inside ball. But yeah, I just think that the three, if Scott, Supovati and Artie allowed everyone else's night to be just about themselves. Like I think even with Finlay, getting the service he did around the breakdown, those three contributed to all that sort of success.
Yeah. It was an interesting thing around the breakdown. I've kind of noticed it the last few weeks. It used to be that when the breakdown was kind of, the ruck was set, people didn't come in afterwards, they spread. But we're seeing, like you're saying, with whether they're loitering and getting in the way and pushing, what's changed and what effect does it have now that people are almost coming in a little bit later and wanting to get in there?
What's good is I've said it. Rusty actually talked about this post his match interview in terms of like the ball presentation and just the kind of nuisanceness that the kind of All Blacks were able to put pressure on the Grant Williams. All it takes is a split second. Like if you're wanting that lightning quick ball and everything's really good, the breakdown is efficient, you get the ball placed well, Grant Williams can get out. And he showed actually when he had the ball and when they were able to do that, they put us under a lot of pressure in terms of the quick ball, the game line success that they did have. But just that little push here and there and a little second effort, doing it legally, just makes it really difficult. And Rusty, like I said, he touched on it, their ball presentation was really poor. So then when you've got a good defensive system like the All Blacks were able to operate at, then it's hard to attack. And you look at the kind of the balls that went to ground, a few times they weren't on the same page in their face play attack, some uncharacteristic mistakes. All those little efforts around the breakdown have a massive part in and around that. So that's probably one of the reasons why you do it, because if you want to give the likes of Grant Williams and Kobus Reinach, who ended up scoring that try in the hard defence, it just makes it a little bit harder if you can put a little bit of pressure around that.
The word legally is an interesting one. We've had an email through from Wim Verbeek from South Africa, and he says, when is it okay to clean out the halfback at the back of a ruck? In the All Blacks versus Springboks game, the ref penalised a Springboks player for cleaning out the All Blacks halfback at the back of the ruck, even though the players in the ruck were all off their feet and the halfback unprotected. Near the end of the game, the same thing happened when the Springboks halfback was cleaned out, standing alone at the ruck, when the ruck seemed to be over, but the ref said, play on. Can you please explain the law? We'll go to our resident halfback. What is legal and what isn't legal about your ability to touch a halfback when a ruck is done? Or more?
This law frustrates me.
Yeah.
Purely because you'll get penalised if you touch a halfback on a counter ruck. But if it's someone else is playing halfback, they don't get it. It's just not ruled the same. Like you have to have a number 9 on your back.
I agree.
Basically, to get a penalty. And once the ball's lifted, and I think it's a metre, then they're allowed to be touched. But I think it is designed to just get the ball out and keep the tempo up of the game. Like I get the concept of the rule, but it's just it's a frustrating rule that isn't, I don't believe, ref consistently.
Yeah, if you're the halfback on the attacking side, you're just going to milk it, because if you are right, the number 9 just has a different set of rules, whether it's a hooker or someone else that's in that position. The 9, I guess, more so is at a different standard of being able to be protected. But I think the only way you can really do it is being able to go for the ball. So as soon as you try and touch a halfback, even if it's really soft, 9s that we know that you just milk that and you get away a penalty from that. If you're directly going for the ball and you're asking the ref while you're doing it, no doubt you'll get prep in and around there, whatever the ref is saying, like communicating on the run, saying, is the ball out? That's the first probably thing you want to do, and then going for your 2 hands with the ball to then pick it up. If you go anywhere around pushing or trying to counter-ruck or anything like that, you are going to get penalised. So the preparation and the education, understanding the ref, and just more so that kind of rule with what Jip's touched on, you know what the rules are. So under pressure, under fatigue, of course, you're going to make a bad decision, but going for the ball is the most important part when being able to go for the halfback.
The safest option, especially when fine margins and discipline plays a big part in deciding test matches of that level. It's just best to probably steer clear.
Or ask. You just have to ask the question, maybe pose the question.
Yeah, and because we're picking on the halfbacks, we've got another question through from Dave Burnham. And he says, I thought part of the move to speed up the game was to get rid of the caterpillar rucks. I can't remember a halfback being penalised for more than 5 seconds after it's been called to use it. I think we saw that on the weekend too.
Yeah.
Like late entries into the caterpillar. I thought at the start of the year we were told that was not going to be a thing.
Oh, and it's always like, I feel for the refs because there's so many, I suppose, focus areas. And at the start of the year, that, you know, they were, like, especially in Super Rugby, it's use it. But as the rugby season goes on, there's the specific focus areas sort of get forgotten about and bad sort of habits of the game creep back in. But it's another one. I don't know, the emailers has got two of my most frustrating rules, because I just think, when you're seeing a caterpillar rug that long and you're just waiting for the kick, I don't know. I know it's part of the game and it's a strength, but it's not entertaining.
Yeah, and I think, like, if we look at probably before this rule was kind of brought in, it did take so long. Like, it could sometimes be 20, 30 seconds. So, like, it has got a lot quicker, and some players are trying to even count it down to be able to try and give the ref a little bit of help in and around that. But I think the biggest thing that I'm finding at the moment is there should be a rule in around as soon as your hands, unless you're digging the ball out, of course, understand to get the ball out. As soon as you start putting your hand on it, that's a great cue for, okay, cool, you've lost your opportunity, you haven't used your foot, make it all play on it, and then you can go for the ball. That's probably the only thing that I'm seeing at the moment, which I think could change, and we need to be better around that.
Matt Carley actually suggested, I think it was to Finlay Christie, in the game, roll it back with your hand. Like, he actually said it to him.
He said that because of the ball. I actually remember that example. Like, it was actually just stuck like there for 10 seconds, and I actually could hear the crowd actually booing around what was happening. But yeah, that's, you know, I can completely understand if there's someone that's on the ball, there's been a bad ball presentation, someone stuck on the ruck using your hand to get the ball out initially, but then from there, based on how good your caterpillar's set, get your foot to be able to go it back. So that's probably only one thing that I think needs to change.
Yeah.
As soon as you touch your hands on it, it's all go, and then you can make it a little bit better around that space.
I'd love that.
Yeah.
I think once your mitts touched it, I know you got to wait till they lift, but I think it's fair. They should be fair game.
Yeah.
Like, you should be able to rip in. Yeah. It annoys me when I know it's legal with the hand, but it's kind of ridiculous.
Well, it's a different rule to the back of the scrum. At the back of the scrum, the moment you touch it, suddenly it's on, right?
Well, because I touched on whether I can't actually remember who the referees was at the time and around, because like it used to be ruled as soon as you put your hand on, went backwards, you were warned, and then you had to get the ball out. But now it just seems like because they think it's fast enough, where that kind of 5-second law, let's say loosely, like it takes 10 seconds really, in most instances, to get that ball back and then kick. They feel it's enough to be able to give an incentive. Okay, it's moving along fast enough. But yeah, I just think that I can see the frustration around that, because it's not 5 seconds, and people are using their hands, which technically you shouldn't be able to do. I wouldn't
mind it getting pinged, especially early on in
100%.
test matches, because then you'd see it would be light a little fire.
I can tell as a halfback, as soon as you hear that, you go into anxiousness. If you don't get that ball right, then your kick execution is so hard, or if anything, you're going to pass the ball back and you give it out to someone under pressure. They've got to kick long, and you're not kicking on your terms.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Finlay Christie, you know, obviously there's been this glut of injuries, and he's stepped into the breach, and he's actually gone extremely well.
Yep.
What happens when the other guys return?
Oh, look, I think, you know, there's a reason why, you know, there were probably guys selected in front of him, more so like Cam Roigard, you know, and Cortez at our team was able to have a really good test match in that first one against the Argentinians. But look, when I saw the weather at Eden Park, I was like, man, Finlay's the perfect person for this test match, because, look, when the Blues were successful, they had a lot of kicks off 9. He did a lot of time at Tasman, and he's been in and around that All Black squad for a long time. But when I did see those conditions, like, this is a guy that will know how to play this kind of rugby. You can't underestimate his combination.
Outstanding defence.
Yeah, his combination with Bowden Barrett as well, with how much rugby they've played. And again, the competitiveness, the breakdown work he does around the breaks, his defensive communication, defensively sound as well. But his kicking game, especially in that first half, look, he had 14 kicks, and he was asked after the game, like, is that the most kicks you've done in a while? And to do that at a test match, that was probably the most that he has done. But I thought his execution, especially in that first half, and the way that how he does play, but the kicking element was a big part when we saw the rain down at Eden Park. So yeah, he was tremendous. It was probably his best test match that I've seen, and a pretty, not a difficult test match, but probably the biggest test match in New Zealand, probably post that 2011 World Cup at Eden Park against France. So yeah, I thought he was absolutely tremendous, and absolutely stoked for him.
Yeah, it's no surprise.
Yeah.
Like, I got asked that a lot last week, and I was like, it's not an issue. Like, Finlay was awesome at the World Cup. Yep. You know, these other guys have found form and got ahead of him in this coaching group, but it was never going to be an issue. And we all have big tickets on Kyle Preston as well. So I think the halfback issue was overplayed. Finlay's a very, very qualified test player.
And game management-wise, one of the best in the country with this experience.
Yeah, and he's, if you knew him, like, man, he's got full belief in his skill set. And he delivered. Like, he delivered. And I still don't, people are sort of like, surprised, but like even that quarterfinal against Ireland, like he was massive in that game, you know, like so. Yeah, it was one of his best tests, but I don't think we should be surprised by it. He's been a quality player for a long time.
While we're cleaning up all of these ideas, we've got one more of these to go through. And this is from Jacob Gienty. He says, I really like the high ball strategy the All Blacks adopted in the first half. Our receivers were running back to catch it. It was working until Geordie was penalised for blocking. He rightfully told the ref that he was the catcher, but Carly said it didn't look like that. Is there any way to make the referee aware of this tactic so we can adopt it, or we always get penalised for not adequately clearing the space?
Again, I don't want to start repeating myself, but it's critical in terms of that ref management and during the week, giving them clear visual clips of what you're trying to do. So I think it was the first time, it was definitely a new tactic, so I think now they've got the evidence to say, hey, this is, you know, like, so refs will pick up on that. So I can understand why it was pinged, because it was new, and probably the perception is he was blocking rather than being the catcher, but now, I mean, it's a great strategy. It's hard, though.
Yep.
That's not an easy way to catch a rugby ball.
You'd rather going forward.
So, yeah, it comes with it. But I suppose it can only be lost backwards. And, you know, when we spoke about the clock and having people in the right areas, it does actually perfectly suit that methodology as well. So I like it. It seems a lot less risky. I know it doesn't look like it because it's a hard skill to execute, but how many times do you get knocked on or you lose because I don't actually know why. This is not fact, this is just my opinion, but it always seems like because the attacking or the kicking side are running and have a little bit more speed, momentum, it almost puts them in an advantage, because normally the defending side sort of is standing there. Whereas I like this, how it's like, okay, you don't need to catch it, but when I'm coming back, you know, they're almost in the contest with. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like I think it's genius. Like it's definitely a safer, more successful option.
It seems like your body doesn't get in the way because your hands are up here, but when you're coming in the other way and your chest is a thing, and suddenly
but it's always because, but like when you're coming, like you kind of said, it's backwards. So even if you lose that initial contest and you don't win the ball, it's actually going back in a back motion to that clock roll or someone in and around that area going backwards. So like, because, you know, you could do everything right, you could be brave in the air, you could win it, but technically it's a 50-50, well, maybe 60-40 if you've got that kind of speed going from the initial kicking, like a Colby getting that ability to be able to get up.
So, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really good. Like it was definitely an area that we kind of touched on earlier, and it's great to see some innovation in terms of how can we try and rectify and be better in that space. So
as a call, if you've got one person coming up this way and another person,
you just got to know.
You know, timing that and not getting penalised for obstruction is quite a difficult thing, isn't it?
It'd be interesting to see if it actually is like a ploy or whether there was just a kind of, you know, it just kind of happened in the moment.
I think they'll be... It's to paint a picture, it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's like they're now letting the refs know that, so that if, I suppose, the guy that's coming forward does catch it, they can at least say, oh, no, that was an overcall and we were... You know, like, it does allow for that, like, because the escorting has really changed up the contestable kick game, and I think this is a creative strategy that potentially gives you the ability to escort still.
Right, one of the great stories of the Test match was Jeff McTaine. You'll know him because you've seen him on this show a few times, and of course you would have heard his voice across lots of commentaries across NPC and Super Rugby, and the last two All Blacks tests wasn't supposed to be the one on the weekend though, Jeff. The big call-up. Tell us the yarn about how you ended up being at Eden Park moments before the test to call the biggest test of your career and the biggest test of the year.
Yeah, so basically what happened was I was on the Finlay Shield call, which was off tube at Sky. So Southland were obviously defending against Canterbury and Invercargill. I was probably half an hour into the first half, and then Ben Castle, who was co-commentary with me, puts a note in front of me, and I'm thinking it must be something to do with you know, one of the players, the statistic, something about the Shield, something I'd missed, or whatever it may have been. And he nudged me because I didn't look down at the time, kept calling, and he nudged me, said, no, look at the piece of paper. So I looked down and it said words to the effect of, you need to call the boss urgently, needed at Eden Park, something like that, 4 exclamation marks underlined. And I thought, what is going on? So got to half time, got out of the booth, got on the phone to the boss, and he said, basically, mate, you need to get your skates on. You need to get to Eden Park right now. We've got a situation. And unfortunately, that situation was that TJ's voice was no good. So I left the Shield game about 10 minutes to play, 70th minute, put the mic down. Ben Castle picks up the mic. He'd never called play-by-play before. I just patted him on the shoulder, and he did that, a fantastic job. I'm told, guiding at home with Taylor Johnson, who was sidelined in Invercargill. I'm on the road to Eden Park. This is probably 10-6 at this point. Thankfully, the motorway was fairly clear heading out of Mount Wellington on the 8K trip to Eden Park. But once I got into Kingsland, there was just a sea of people, absolute chaos, roads closed everywhere. Thankfully, I had the number for the traffic management guy who was in charge of all the entries and exits around Eden Park, and he basically made a few calls, and the sea of orange cones just parted, and this guy came towards my car on a moped, and he led me through this crowd of people making their way to Eden Park with the moped in front of my car. I had the hazard lights on, went in at gate Q opposite the outer oval, and from there, probably that was 6:15, headed upstairs into the commentary box.
What a story. Mate, sorry, Jeff, just congratulations, mate. I'm hoping the press tour is going well with the headphones on.
Oh, yes, I will explain. Just it's been chaos the last couple of days, people texting and wanting to know what happened. And yeah, it is a crazy story. So I've had a few people reach out, a few different media outlets and things wanting to know what went on. So I've just been doing a couple of those today. But no, it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy weekend for sure.
We're talking about preparation on this podcast and the analytics and all the kind of everything. Talk me through your preparation, mate, the biggest test match of your life. And you're doing about 50 minutes of preparation, trying to figure out where the car park is. Are you going to get up to there in time? Talk me through what it looks like for you, mate, as one of the better commentators flown around, and what your preparation was like for that night.
When I got in the car, I thought, okay, let's keep this simple. So I started formulating an introduction, started thinking about Artie's test as well, the 100th, how I was going to approach that, what I would say, thought about player pronunciations, obviously not having the South Africans in Super Rugby to call domestically every year. We watch these guys on TV every other week, but calling a game of footy is different. You know, you have to be familiar. And then started getting my head around that. And then I called Ross actually. So thank you, mate, for that. I just wanted to go through the 23 of the Springboks with someone I trusted. And we just compared notes on pronunciations and whatnot. So that was great. Managed to cover that off. When I got to the commentary box, though, I was gutted for TJ, for Tony not being able to call the test match, but he'd obviously done so much prep and put together a wonderful intro and things. So he was kind enough and letting me use all of that, and obviously that certainly helped get me to kick off. And once kickoff were underway, we were in the zone.
What was your favourite moment to call? I personally enjoyed Artie's turnover.
I think that was a highlight, Artie's turnover. I probably also think that Imani scoring early.
Now Bowden Barrett puts a kick across to the right wing side, where Imani Narawa waits. He's through. Imani Narawa, first try for the All Blacks.
Just having something like that, a big moment early, the All Blacks try after 90 seconds, something like that happening, really, I suppose, got everybody engaged. Certainly allowed me to, I guess, reach a peak early on with calling a try in. So that got me really into the commentary. And then after that, Artie's turnover was huge. Rico Ioane for all the talk and the rhetoric around him to hold up Ox and Chair. Pretty crucial moment, really, in the test match, if you think about it, to hold them out, because if he scores, then it's a lot closer at the end. So that was big. I also, I just love the way the test flowed. For it to lead to that moment, for Artie to turn that ball over at the end, 100th test, and I was looking down, because I looked out at the commentary box window. I wasn't looking at my monitor at the time. I looked down at the breakdown, and I hadn't actually seen him get over the ball. But then Marshall obviously called it. He said, Artie Savia. So as soon as I locked onto him, I just thought, got to say the line. How many times have we seen that in his 100 test matches? And he delivers again. And it was a nice moment, as we saw when he was pointing down at the ground. And I think he was mouthing words, this is my house or this is our house, and hell of a test. Just everything we wanted, eh?
Everyone knows that Eden Terrace is Jeff McTainsh's house. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that.
No, it's my wife's house, mate.
Smart man. You're a smart man.
Fair enough, mate. Now, tell us about this weekend. What do you think is going to happen in the second test?
Injuries are going to be the key thing, I think, for both teams. Just see who's freshened up. Obviously, Cody Taylor, George Bell will come in, and around Amoni as well, what they do. I do think, we might see one or two changes based on that, but I think at this stage, you've probably got to be consistent with your selection, reward the guys that played well at Eden Park, those who are still standing, obviously. But if you're Erasmus, I think the All Blacks probably took it to the Springboks a little bit with some of the tactics that they employed with the high kicking and, a lot of the physical stuff. The All Blacks were very, very impressive and probably beat the Springboks to the punch a bit. But again, they'll like a lot of what they saw at set piece. I mean, a tight-headed international rugby at the end to score that try the way they did, that was incredible. So they'll know that they've got edge in places like that. It was almost classic All Blacks that we've become used to over the years, where they have performed at their best because they did find a way to win. And that's probably been one of the main criticisms over the last couple of years, is we've been in those situations when the chips have been down and we haven't managed to get out of the stadium with the points. So I think that's the most pleasing thing for Razor and the team.
You know what's really pleasing for me, Jeff? Just how beautifully clean your car is. It's an exceptional effort.
Mate.
Look at that.
This is what happens when you don't have kids, we don't have kids, mate, so it's fine. Otherwise there'd be a car seat there'd be toys everywhere, there'd be fingerprints all over the seats. No, she's nice and clean, and she's a pleasure to drive. It's a plug-in hybrid, but don't tell Greg Murphy that it's a plug-in hybrid, because he would never talk to me again.
Oh, good on you, mate. Good on you, mate.
Enjoy the publicity tour. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, boys. Cheers.
If you, a family member or friend, wants to get into rugby shape, we have the giveaway to suit. Along with All Blacks trainer Dr. Nick Gill's Rugby Ready team, we're trying to get the rugby community, whether you're a player or fan, fit and strong. Each week, one winner will receive 4 weeks of free access to the Rugby Ready Perform membership, with full access to all of Dr. Nick Gill's pre-season, in-season, off-season and specialty programs to help take your game to the next level. A huge congratulations to this week's winner of the Rugby Ready giveaway, Matthew Towers. You've scored 4 weeks of free access to the Rugby Ready Perform membership. Thanks again to everyone who entered. We loved reading your stories, and if you didn't win this time around, don't worry, you're still in the running, so keep those amazing submissions coming in, and it could be your name we announce next week. Want in? It's simple. Just DM Rugby Ready on Instagram with the code ARP and tell them why you'd love to win. And of course, if you miss out, you can get 75% off memberships through ARP by going to the link or using the QR code below. Now, it was a really big performance from the Black Ferns on the weekend. The tournament play, the time together really showed in absolutely hammering Ireland 40-0. It was a very slick performance, Jip.
It's the zero that impressed me the most. We know they've got points in them, this Black Ferns side, but that defensive effort, they tackled around 92%. They had 12 dominant tackles, which is not a stat that I suppose we've come accustomed to for their defensive. So that's a big growth. That's an important growth. As we know with England, they dominate a lot of collisions. So if they can bring that, but I think the performance as a whole, they've said we're here and we're coming to defend it. It was so clean. Like Renee Holmes, I think that's the best test I've ever seen her play. She was just sensational. The ability, her kicking was great, but that catch pass when Waka sort of throws it out the backhand and just to give it, and it was 10, 15 metre pass right on the chest. Oh, she was the best on ground for me.
Yeah, I was just really impressed with the defence. Like, those numbers are really good. It was more so the connection that they have. It seemed like whether it was Waka or whether on the wing with the wingers that were on there as well, Soros and McGee, they were all connected. So the defensive pressure that they put on Ireland, they tried to play. Like, you look at that first 10 minutes, they were trying to hold on to the ball, but the efficiency around the breakdown with the loose forward trio, even the tight five to be able to put pressure on was really good. And then I just think that was probably like Stacey Waka's one of her best performances that she's had this year. I think the example that you were using, but her distribution skills, because I think like Sylvia Brunt, her dominant carries and how she was getting over the advantage line to give that good front foot ball was a good combination with those two going. So I thought it was like Stacey Walker's best performance, and I just think the kicking game, like we touched on the last World Cup, they obviously didn't kick, but they've made a big evolution through the last World Cup that they want to kick on their own terms. And like, look, Renee Holmes, I think, is going to be a big part in and around what she can provide, like kicking off with both feet. Like they had 24 kicks yesterday, and they had 901 metres kicked, which you think about for a New Zealand team compared to what we've seen in the past, like that's just a massive change in terms of what they've done. So I think I was really impressed with that, and I guess more so the turnover rate. Like 15 turnovers isn't high considering what we've probably seen with the Black Ferns in the early part of the year, but I think just a statement win. And I think, the zero is a big part of that, the defensive pressure they put on their Irish team. They just put them into submission. And then being able to, I guess, the impact of the players that did come on in the second half as well, they added to that whole performance at the starting 15 we're able to do in the first part of that game. To
bring context to that 900 metres kicking metres, that is a big shit. It's almost double what has been the average for them. So, like, their skill development. I think Ricky Flutie's clearly done a great job in terms of getting extra distance on the kick. But they're starting to, I suppose, we know that Alan Bunting has wanted the kicking game to improve, but they're starting to see the rewards of a lot of hard work, I'd say, on the training paddock to get the accuracy and the distance, because the distance is massive. Like I think previously most of the time they'd have 24 kicks for 500 metres. Now, and I don't think it was by choice. That was still trying to go for a territory game, but they just didn't have the length on it. That's outstanding and a big part of the defensive effort as well, because when you can put teams down that end and you're sort of defending on your terms is just such a great way, I suppose, to be playing rugby.
And I think the best thing about it as well, like Renee Holmes, her kicking in length was obviously really big off both feet, but all the backs are kicking, so it's not just like it's one or two people that you've got to be able to worry about if you're trying to defend the Black Ferns with the kicking game. And so the evolution and the growth of all the girls in terms of that squad the last 3 years post the last World Cup, you've seen a massive improvement with the stats that I did touch on. So that gives me confidence in knowing that with the way we are defending, if we can continue to keep having those numbers, keep winning that physical breakdown area both sides of the ball, and we can kick in our own terms to be able to then put teams under pressure. I'm forecasting for the French and kind of the English if we do get to that stage. But with what I'm seeing in and around the defensive area, the kicking game, and look, the attacking, like we're going to be great attacking. We do it, our tip play, our interplay to be able to use the ball in space with the athletes that we do have. I'm confident in that space, but it's been the evolution in the other parts of the game, which is really pleasing against a pretty good Irish team as well.
Yeah, and I really liked our punch off the bench. Like, Tukuafu was massive in terms of energy and effort and continued on the great work that the sort of starting loose forwards had. But then Maya Joseph, the pass, the Christmas of her pass, and I think that competition for that 9 spot, it was having that punch come off the bench, I think is going to be massive, because they'll be in the contest if they get to the final, it'll be close and it'll come down to, probably the last sort of 10 minutes, and having that sort of injection of, I suppose, speed and physicality is, it's a strength. We look at the South African male team of the bomb squad, it feels like the balance of this squad is right. Like, I know they'll all want to start, but actually both those players with, sort of fire in their belly off the bench is a really good mould for this Black Ferns team, I believe.
Yeah, and if they can continue to keep working on the set piece, because that's always going to probably be the biggest area when they play the French, and especially the English, whether it's defending a line-out maul, whether it's a scrum at an important time. So the bench being able to come on the last 20 minutes and understanding their roles, more so in the set piece and parity-wise, if they can continue to keep doing that, they give every chance to be able to play against England. I know there's a little bit more to go with it, and the best thing about it is that, look, we are playing, obviously, the South Africans in the quarterfinal stage, which probably have had a lot of success, and they haven't probably played as much big-time rugby as we have. So if we do get past that, that's 4 games in a row that we've had, some good performances. They've had an understanding of the conditions, the players, the environment, the scenario of where they are. So, yeah, it's been it's a big statement win for the Black Ferns. So really impressed with how they played on the other day.
And obviously, a lot of the chat has been about Braxton Sorensen-McGee. She's only 18 years old. She's a phenomenal talent. You can see the touch background. You can see the way she draws and passes and the way that she runs with the ball. But having her on the right wing with Holmes at fullback seems to provide a balance. Yeah,
I just think... I think Bryn's right as well. I think Waka's form and Renee Holmes is allowing her to just hold the edge. And I also think Georgia Miller's playing quite a nice little role on that right edge as well. So I think the one thing that I'm impressed with Braxton, it's when you're young at these, it's easy to go looking for the ball. But in terms of their system, she holds that edge, and it's a lot harder. I know that sounds easy, but it is a lot harder to hold an edge if the ball isn't coming your way. But you need people there to try and stretch and manipulate the defence. And she's getting the rewards at the moment. You know, ball's coming her way, and she's scoring some tries. But I think it's not always going her way, and I do admire. I suppose those are the sort of things I look for, especially in young players, is that ability to stay within the system. So I suppose it's a roundabout way of saying, like, she's not, although the highlight package is building, she's not looking for it, you know, like she's not forcing it. She's just letting the game come to her, which I really like.
And it's why I think, like, the combination, I think, with Renee Holmes and probably Stacey Walker, the combination they've had along with Brunt and her physicality to be able to give the advantage line, it's putting her away. So all, you know, Braxton really needs is a one-on-one, very similar to a Portia Woodman or Vaha Kola or whoever it may be, Letiang, if they're in that position. Give that person just a one-on-one. So the distribution skills with those girls, especially Holmes and Walker, in that island game, it gives the opportunity for your outside. When outsides are scoring, the work that's been done on the inside, they're getting the ball to them to be able to score the points. So, yeah, some really good performances from that midfielding and Renee Holmes as well.
She's also, for someone who's very slight, quite courageous.
Tough, man. She's tough.
Yeah.
Like, whether it's even defensively, there's a couple of shots that she put on full speed ahead, and she's not a very big girl. You know, she's probably going to put a little bit more size on the more she does play and then gets into the high performance environment. But yeah, she's brave.
She doesn't shy away from contact, and I think maybe that's a potential growth. You know, like just not looking for the collision or just freeing up the outside a little bit earlier. But yeah, no, I think when you see her in and around that breakdown. Work in the wide breakdowns, like she's, you know, sort of like, not saying she's like Georgia Miller, but, you know, like she is, they're just unique, they've got a unique skill set, and they might wear a winger's jersey or a flanker's jersey, but they could probably play pretty much anywhere across the park.
They have a really good understanding of space. Now, the South Africans got absolutely smoked by France, and that French team looked to have an incredible balance.
Yeah. I think, like, we know with the South African side, they've punched above their weight to get to this quarterfinal.
Yep.
We've seen I suppose the Black Ferns 15 win one and lose one earlier against the Springboks. So you have to think it's critical that I think it's another statement performance. Like it's going to be a high scoring game. But I think that will be key to keep the pressure on the other teams, you know, not just thinking, this is England's to lose, basically.
Yeah. The French, you know, they've got Boudin-Saint-Sou and, you know, Briard at the back, but they kick like the Black Ferns do, like long, and it seems to be the same thing for all of the top teams in men's and the women's game. More often than not, if you've kicked further than the other team, you're winning the game.
Yeah.
It's an interesting trend across the board, isn't it?
Well, actually, we talk about in the men's game in terms of not playing too much rugby. Like, if you're going to play a lot of footy in and around your area, it opens up around mistakes, a high turnover rate, breakdown penalties, and if you've got a really good line out maul where you can kick 3 points here and there, then it just builds pressure. So, like, the Black Ferns, with the numbers that we've touched on, we've seen it a lot with England, not just this World Cup, but previously around the kicking game and suffocating teams. So, look, yeah, there's a little bit to go in terms of, I guess, with South Africa and the Black Ferns. You'd have to think we'll be able to get over that. But, yeah, that French series, with that French game to come, yeah, obviously it's going to be a war of attrition, and I guess more so taking your opportunities with what we probably saw in the weekend with the All Blacks and the Springboks. Very similar. A couple of moments here and there, and hopefully we're on the better side of it.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine that the Black Ferns wouldn't win that game. I think we'll see probably.
Yeah. Clinic.
Yeah. We're going to
hopefully a statement performance to back up probably the performance against the Irish. That's what we're wanting.
So we see France, England on one side in the semi-final, and we see Canada, New Zealand on the other side, and that's going to be a hell of a semi-final. Right? Now, let's take a quick look, I suppose, just at the Ranfurly Shield this weekend. Do we think that Tasman can get up and have the Shield move for the fourth time in 4 weeks?
I mean, they can. They're good enough. And I commentated Canterbury's first game against Wellington, and there's just something. Jimmy Lynch's has got their defensive system just rocking. Like, they are seriously strong defensively. So and I know Tasman are a strong attacking side, but there's just not a lot of weaknesses in that Canterbury defence. So I think, and we know that they can score points. So I don't see them losing it. I mean, it's I'm not doing my old, it's one up front, but Tasman have a rock star backline, but this Canterbury pack, even without Sam Derry, you know, their depth and the clinical nature of their game at the moment is massive.
Yep. Yeah. Now, we haven't had the chance to look at the Wallabies versus Argentina so far in this game, and I'm gutted for you because Su'ali'i found space.
Did he what? He loves it. When he gets on that outside and creating that, I suppose, distance away from the defence, he is one hard man to stop.
Yeah. And
Icky Dell set up a beautiful try for him as well. It was an impressive win for the Wallabies, for me, because man, they looked down and out. Half time, you know, it was like, where's this going? But the way they fought their way back in and they got field position and that possession and territory eventually, you know, gave way. But again, similar to the All Blacks, I think the yellow card was a big reason and opportunity where the game was won and lost, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I think in the first half, I think that the kicking game, they probably played a little bit too much, and along with a higher penalty count, they had 9 penalties in that first half, gave some great opportunities, and probably the Argentinian strike play in terms of off scrum attack to score tries.
Downline?
Yeah, it kind of seems that like the strike phase, just one, when you're having a set piece maul or a scrum, teams end up to be scoring tries that way. But I just think the reversal from that, they were able to kick on their own terms. I think they had 21 kicks in the second half to their 6 in the first half. And then the Argentinians gave away penalties. So it was more so the ill discipline and the being able to not get the penalties on the right side of the half was probably the difference in the end. And I think just the maturity of this Wallabies group to be able to show some kahunas in terms of being able to not give up.
Yeah.
And I think it's been a big part of the Joe Smith team to stay in the fight. It's Harry Wilson as well.
I think he deserves a lot of the credit. Like
Joe Smith or Harry Wilson?
Harry
Oh,
Wilson.
Yeah.
You know, that was a courageous call.
Massive call. Was there? There's no extra time. Is that the reason why? Possibly that could have been the reason why there's no extra time. And
I don't think there's golden point.
Yeah, there isn't. Okay, so yeah,
golden point.
But yeah, I think and just from there to be able to get the kick
just
to 7
points. Just the way he turned to the team, though, he's like, let's go. I was out of my seat with him. I was like, come on, the Wallabies.
And then from there, to have 3 or 4 opportunities, and there was some ill discipline in terms of the Argentinian team, but to be able to find a way, and I guess even look at Icky Tau, I've been really impressed with Icky Tau.
Good man.
Not just in this, not in the Rugby Championship, but in the British and Irish Lions series. His combination with Su'ali'i, I think if they can continue to keep doing it, I think just by himself is really becoming one of the better second fives in the world, second five or centres. But yeah, I just think the way he was able to pick the ball up, just get that person just come a little bit tighter, and then Angus Bell scores over. I think it just shows that they seemed pretty confident. It didn't seem like they were flustered. They knew exactly what they were doing, and to be able to score a try to win the Test match like that, big statement one for them.
Angus Bell was a big impact player.
Their bench
throughout that whole second half.
Their bench,
massive.
Their bench has been awesome. The full 23, they're getting big numbers out of their the big players coming on in the second half.
And they've had some big injuries as well. So I think it's a big confidence win performance for
100%.
them. In terms of the Bledisloe. They genuinely, if they can get some bodies back and that they've got as close to their full strength team, it's going to be an absolute doozy.
Yeah.
Right, so they're going back to back.
The consistency and growth will be at the floor, and they'll get the job done.
Same for you.
Same for me.
What about down in Wellington? Wellington, the place that the All Blacks probably struggle the most at home. Okay, let me put it this way. What can the South Africans do to change this?
Yeah, well, I think it's an even start. When it was 24. What they were maybe 24/7. It almost you're like, we've got this. I think the more that scoreline remains tight for the bulk of the game, that they're not going to be. They're not if they get 13 times this into the 22. They're not going to let it slip 2 weeks in a row. So this is going to be, and I sound like a broken record from last week, but I think it's going to be one penalty will decide.
Yeah. If we give them 13 entries like Jip touched on, they're going to be a lot more efficient. They'll be a lot more brutal. And I guess just the, not the clunkiness, but they just didn't seem like the cohesion that they had that they were used to seeing. And whether that was for the fact that, I had to touch on it, the rehearsal coming to New Zealand and been able to have the test matches like we did and the Australians have had, I think we just see a better performing South Africa, but I think the All Blacks still 1-12.
Right. Well, look forward to that because it is an absolute doozy of a test match coming up. The Boks wanting revenge, the All Blacks wanting to consolidate and come that little bit closer to hopefully having one hand on the trophy before the Bledisloe Cup comes along. Of course, the Wallabies have something to say about that, but amazing weekend to come. So thank you very much for joining us on the Aotearoa Rugby Pod, brought to you by Ashley and Martin Medical Hair Centres. Thank you for everyone behind the scenes who helps us make this show. And please send us an email or get into the comment section, aotearoarugbypod@sky.co.nz. And we'll catch you next week. Mā te wā.